Chapter 22 of the Dao De Jing, Dao rhymes with now, is a passage about paradox, not as riddle, but as an account of how things actually move when you stop trying to force them. Xie quán, wǎng zai zhai, hua zai yíng, bai zai zhen, shǎo zai dai, du zai huo, ji shèng rain bao yi wei jiàn zia shi, bu zai jiàn gu míng, bu zai shi, gu zhēng, bu zai fa, gu yu gōng, bu zai jin, gu zhāng. Fu wei bu zhēng, gu tiān zila mo néng yu zhai zhēng, gu zhai su wike ze quan ji, kai zu yan zai, Chéng quan er gijai. Yield and remain whole, bend and become straight, be hollow and be filled. Wear away and become new, have little and gain, have much and be lost. Therefore the sage holds to the one thing and becomes a pattern for the world, not displaying himself, he is clearly seen. Not insisting he is right, his rightness becomes apparent. Not claiming credit, his work endures. Not praising himself, he is remembered, because he does not contend. Nothing under heaven can contend with him. The ancient saying, yield and remain whole, is this empty words, wholeness returns to you. Truly, the passage opens with 6 short lines, each a pair of opposites in motion. Yield, and you stay whole. Bend, and you straighten. Be hollow, and you fill. Wear out, and you renew. Have little, and you gain. Have much, and you lose your way. These are not encouragements, they are observations about structure. The branch that gives in the wind does not snap. The bowl that is emptied is the bowl that can hold something. The Chinese word in that last line, huo, means confusion, disorientation, not simply losing things, but losing your sense of where you are. When you accumulate too much, you stop knowing what matters. Then the text shifts to the figure the text calls shèng rain, not a saint, not a moral exemplar, but someone who moves without generating friction. And the passage describes 4 things this person does not do. They do not display themselves, and so they are clearly seen. Think of someone who talks constantly about what they have accomplished. After a while, you stop hearing it. Compare that to someone who says nothing, whose work just accumulates in front of you. The silence draws attention that the performance cannot. They do not insist they are right, and so their rightness becomes apparent. The person who argues loudest for a position often produces resistance before anyone has examined the argument. The person who states what they observe and lets it sit, the observation can be tested. There is nothing to push against. They do not claim credit, and so their work endures. A teacher who takes credit for students' achievements makes students feel small. The name may appear at the front of the room, but the students are waiting to leave. The teacher whose students go on to teach others, that is the work that keeps moving. The credit claim is already a ceiling on what the work can become. They do not praise themselves, and so they last. Self-promotion requires constant upkeep. You have to keep reminding people. The person who does not has nothing to maintain, no image to defend. The passage draws all 4 together into one principle, because the sage does not contend. Bu zhang, nothing can contend with them. This is not passivity. The text is pointing at something specific. Contention creates a surface. When you push, there is a direction for others to push back. When you compete openly, you have declared yourself a competitor and others orient against you. When you claim you are the best, you give everyone a reason to prove otherwise. Holding to the one thing, bao yi, means remaining coherent. The person whose actions do not contradict themselves does not generate a handhold for resistance. Not because they are maneuvering, but because there is nothing to grab. The passage ends with a direct question and answer. The old saying, yield and remain whole, is it empty? No. Wholeness returns to you. Truly. That word, shèng, translated here as truly, carries the sense of sincerity, but also of what is real. What is real will find its way back. The text is making a claim about structure, not issuing moral instruction. What might a person take from this today? Not a technique for appearing modest in order to gain advantage. The moment it becomes a strategy, the passage collapses. What it points at is more like a question worth sitting with. Where are you spending force that does not need to be spent? What are you holding so tightly that you can no longer move? Some chapters in this text are meant to prompt action. This one may be meant to return to, at different points in a life, when what once worked starts to weigh. Yield and remain whole. The text has been saying this for 2,500 years, and it still does not sound like advice. The next chapter is 23.